think your neck's supposed to crunch like that.
Your shoulder?
Oh,
That's
don't do
nice,
that. Don't do that. Please don't do that.
Oh, is it rough for you?
It sounds terrible.
Oh, it must be really hard for you. My shoulder cracks when I move it.
It just sounds painful.
Again, it must be really hard for you.
Okay. Welcome back. It's been a while since I did one of these story readings. I know.
A bit
I'm sorry.
of slacker.
Sorry. Mike looks out from the conference room at the stars outside. It all looks the same. Doesn't feel like the future to him. Outside of the ships nearby, he can hardly tell any difference between this version of Falteris and the one he just left. He wishes this entire episode was just a bad dream, but he knows this is not the time to lose his focus. So what to do with Jason, he asks as he turns to face Jason Marcus, the man who could design weapons that could destroy entire worlds. Do I get a say in this, Jason asks nervously. Of course you do, Mike responds. We're not going to imprison you, but now we know you're a weapons designer and that something you design strikes Altil in our universe in the past. I mean, I just don't see a way around this. We have to prevent that. Yeah, but there's a problem with that mission, Nathan says as he stands up and makes his way over to Mike. If there are parallel universes, how do we know that preventing this Jason from doing that will prevent it from happening in our timeline? Maybe we can't do anything about that since we know that it happened. The door of the conference room opens and both Dragons enter the room. Maybe we can help, the younger version of the two says while the elder sits down at the table. The younger goes to a blackboard usually used for drawing out possible battle strategies or for the odd game of hangman. He draws 2 circles which overlap one another and then draws 4 others which all intersect at differing degrees. What's that? Chris asks. Dresden smiles as he turns to address the senior crew members of both E215 and the Vindicator. I've consulted the elder version of myself on this matter and we have a theory. It's a good theory, so I'll try to keep this simple and straightforward. There are any number of universes in existence. There are different universes with different physical laws, and there are ones which run parallel to this one. They all started along the same path, but diverted along the way. Let's say John got married in one, but he didn't in the other. That can lead to further changes down the road. But how can that be? I mean, Nathan asks as his voice trails off. He's already in over his head on this one. He sees everyone looking at him, waiting for him to finish that thought. I'm more of a navigator and weapons guy than a physicist, he says, and sits back down. The younger Dragon goes to Nathan, pats him on the shoulder. The elder version gives him a reassuring smile as well. I don't expect anyone to completely understand this. The thing is, we're now in a universe which looks and feels like ours, but it is different. The real key here is to find the way back home to our universe. It's not just about going back in time, but about going back to our version in that time. It is true that keeping Jason with us may not prevent us from seeing that attack on Altil as it has already happened. There has been little belief in any circles that the past can be undone, the elder Dragon says. If we went back and managed to undo that, we have essentially gone to a different reality than the one we left. So there could be no hope, Jim Webster asks. The 2 Dragons share a worried glance, and then both face Jim while the younger version speaks. Hope is important, Jim. Look at that galaxy out there. Earth is defeated. Altair's nearly wiped out. Falteris won't make up its mind on what to do regarding the war that they've already lost. The galaxy's a mess. The game's decided to start playing itself. Yeah, game's starting to play itself. I'll just do that. There we go. I'll just do that. Just got my racing game up. Galaxy is a mess. But you come from the past into the future, and by being here, it disrupts space-time, the elder version says. Now, it is possible for you to go home and change things in your present, which is my past, and change this timeline altogether. That's where this could be tricky, though. There was a man from Altil I met once who claimed that traveling back and forth through time had not been accomplished as such travels could unravel space-time itself. Did that go over anybody else's head or just mine? Nathan asks. No, I don't have a clue either, Chris answers, wishing there was wine present for this meeting. Her headache is back. The elder Dragon stands now and makes his way to the younger version's crude drawings on a blackboard. Okay, imagine these circles aren't different versions of the universe, but are instead bubbles. Each time someone moves back and forth between these, they leave a tiny hole behind. If they travel enough between them, they can essentially cause time to collapse in that universe. Now, since the past has already happened, we know you couldn't go back and undo your existence in the universe as a result. However, going forward into the future, which has not happened yet, and leading to massive changes, should you return to your own time, could undo the future version of the universe as it, well, pops, for lack of a better word. Implodes is a good word, the younger version says with a nod to his elder self. So this universe implodes and the future we create when we get home replaces it, John asks. Exactly, the younger Drachin exclaims. Now, if Geyer and Gora have been abusing the ability to time travel as much as we suspect, then this universe could be hanging on by a thin thread. With that concept established, we now have to focus on getting people home to your time. The elder version of me sees no issue with this version of the future being destroyed. But we don't have anyone among us who knows how to time travel, Nathan points out. I have ideas, the elder version of Dradgen says. I have expressed those ideas to Alan Webster, but I was largely ignored. I have been told how old and crazy I am for so long now I've started to believe it. He then goes to a control panel on the wall, turns the lights down low, and then generates a holographic image of the galaxy on the conference room table in the middle of the room. Okay, that's cool, Nathan says. I didn't know we had one of those in this room. That's the Milky Way, right? Of course, the elder Dradgen says, as he then climbs onto the table into the middle of the hologram. He then crouches beneath it and points to the middle of the galaxy. You came to this time in history from near the center of the galaxy. Gravitational forces there are stronger than anywhere else in the known universe. Those forces are strong enough to warp space-time and allow this craft to essentially cheat and enter the future or the past. But how would you know how to move along the space-time highway, John asks. What would you use to calculate the time you're going to or from? The elder Dradgen grins ear to ear, delighted someone's getting this concept. The universe is not a steady-state object. The universe changes with every passing moment. Now, we know the universe started from a single point in space, a point before the existence of time. Since that point, the universe has changed in terms of its size, its background radiation levels, and its expansion rate. If you're able to calculate the relative size of the universe, you can see this background radiation level, the expansion rate, and you could plot a course to any other point in time in the universe using these numbers. That is so dangerous, Jason Marcus says, shaking his head. You could play God. You could go back to a primordial universe and affect everything that happened after that. Though you cannot change what has happened in your reality. You're just destroying another reality before it has a chance to form. That's why Geyer would have to come here, and he would have had to lay low for so long, the younger Dradgen explains. If he could just go back to the formation of our planets and destroy them, he would. We're still here, thus proving if he tried it, it was futile for this reality. There's also a possibility that this isn't as much a parallel universe as it is ours, and maybe the changes we caused by coming to the future haven't been felt here yet. Maybe there's a delayed ripple effect to this. I know this is really hard to follow. It is for me as well. We just have to get home. If Geyer and Gora are working together out there, then it is imperative we find a way home and prevent this future from happening as much as we can. I still don't get it, Nathan says. That's fine. You just fly the ship and shoot things. We'll worry about the rest of it, John says to Nathan before turning towards the younger Dradgen. Can you calculate those figures and get us home? I can try, the younger one says nervously. We can both try, the elder version echoes. Next chapter. Charis is doing her best to hold it together. There's already a rumor that rebels are massing in the hills outside Jordan and planning on seizing the power over Falteres. Charis has to keep all of that out of her mind as she gets set to give the most important speech of her life. There are so many emotions going on within her right now, so many things she could say and she can't. She has to project sanity into an insane situation and disconnect from the death of her older sister. Tally and Charis have two younger siblings, their brother Chris and sister Beb standing to their right. Though there is an invisible shield between herself and the gathered crowd, she's trying to appear as calm and approachable as her sister ever did. There are snipers in every direction just in case any violence breaks out, but Charis is doing her best to stay calm. My people, I speak to you at a dark time in our history. A member of our forces, a man who wore the uniform for my own regiment, took the life of our leader Talia today. He also took the life of an Altilian soldier who was here on a peaceful mission. She pauses due to an outcry from the crowd, many of them conditioned to hate Altilians, no matter who they are. I understand your anger, she continues. It is possible this man saw an Altilian ship landing at Kate Translow's house and decided that we were working with the enemy. The reality is there are forces at work here that need to be kept in check for all of us. There was a cowardly attack on the people of Altil that got this ball rolling. This cowardly attack has been condemned by our government and also by the government of Earth. But I know what lurks in the hearts of our people, and that has to change. War is an ugly thing, but it is sometimes necessary, and this war has been about stopping the advance of Gora and the legacy of Gyre in their attempt to wipe out anything who opposes anyone or anything that opposes their vision of Altil as the rulers of the galaxy. This is not, however, a reason to hate on all of that world. When the attack was carried out against Altil, millions lost their lives. There are men, women, children, entire families who were wiped out. They're gone. We can't bring them back. The force which attacked Altil could do this again, and we need to take any step we have to in order to prevent that, even if it means talking to Altilian soldiers. My sister was not a warmonger, as some have stated. She hated war. She hated mindless violence, and this was always about the greater good. My sister was a loving and kind woman with a big heart. She gave up the dream of getting married and having children so she could be your leader, and she worked to unite our people behind a common cause, headed towards a better future. My sister believed in Falteris, even at a time when Falteris didn't believe in her. My father, Cordell, was a strong leader as well. He knew the price of war, although he also understood it was important to do what was right. My sister died today in an act of cowardice while she was doing the right thing. I appeal to the rebel forces on this planet to give up the pointless fight with your own people. Unite with us, and together we can assure a better future for our people and for people everywhere. I now stand before you as the one who wants to step into my sister's place as your leader. I want to be the one who finally sees our world united and the one who leads us to peace. What good is peace now if we allow war crimes to go unpunished? What good is peace now if Gora destroys life on Earth to achieve his goal and then comes after us? What good will peace now do us when that war machine comes at us and we are unable to fight it off, as no one will be left to assist us? This is not an issue of morality. This is not even an issue of humans versus Altilians. I've seen good people among them. I've seen very strong-willed and independent figures on their side. I believe there's a vocal part of the population who have been silenced, and maybe we can appeal to them by taking their tyrannical leader out of the picture. The talk I hear is of their prophecies and how they believe they will take over the galaxies. They talk of Altilian destiny, and I answer that we make our own destiny. The future starts now with us. The future begins with everyone here, with me now, everyone watching this around the world, and everyone beyond. I stand before you refusing to have my sister's death not count for something. I stand before you as a woman who still believes in our people, in the war we face, and in humanity as a whole. I have a strong belief in us as a people. I believe we can rise above this terrible moment in our history and make it a watershed moment that leads to something better. Will you follow, or will you ignore the truth that stands here before you now? There is nothing we cannot overcome, she says, and there are thundering cheers from the gathered crowd. A tear runs down Charis' cheek as she looks at the tens of thousands who are gathered here, and she hopes that this leads to a united world. They need that now more than ever, and she hopes her sister would be proud of her for her efforts. And that's the end of that scene. Just a nice little speech from Charis Lars. And that was all improv. I didn't plan that out at all. So there you go. I did that. Saval's looking at empty space again, this time moments after they witness Charis' speech. He looks around the bridge and all eyes are on him. No one dares say anything after they saw an impassioned speech from a woman who could very well be the next leader of Falteris. There are so many ways this could go. So someone took out Talia Laris and it wasn't even one of her own, Saval says as he sits down and closes his eyes to think this over. We've tried many times over to quietly eliminate her, and now someone else has done it. Falteris seems to be galvanized behind her, though there'll certainly be rebels who want to rebel, no matter what anyone says. And she was meeting with Altilians, Rek points out. That is very troubling. Saval pauses, his eyes still closed. See, I believe the Altilian we're looking for is likely to be part of this. Dizak has always, to my face, agreed with me, but I've heard things. I've been told things he has said in closed-door meetings, but I never felt there was any merit to it, and I also felt I needed for him to be at my side rather than on theirs. You could have killed him, Rex says flatly. Saval opens his eyes and faces his first officer. That is always an option, yes. Just think of all the times I've wanted to kill you, for example. Now, do we try to track down what happened to our enemies who are missing, or do we take advantage of the situation which now presents itself to us? What's that? Taliolaris has been killed. Voltaires is in a state of shock. This is the best possible time to strike against them and take them out. If we take down Voltaires, that only leaves Earth to face us, and they're pathetic at best, Saval says. That may not play well at home in the light of what Charis Laris just said and after the attack against our world. We're supposed to find the root cause of that attack and prevent further attacks. If we strike against Voltaires and another attack's carried out against our world, how would that look? What if we don't have a world to return to? Rek asks. Saval furrows his brow. He grunts a few times while he thinks this over. He again looks out at the empty space in front of the ship. Time travel possibilities still on his mind. It's just so much for him to be concerned with. He feels like a small part of a much larger picture, and it's one he cannot see. He knows if he attacks Voltaires, that it'll become a much larger part of that picture as well. Without Dizak or someone who understands the concept of time travel, he's lost. If Dizak were to have gone to Katie Translow, as was mentioned in that speech, if it were him, and I do mean if, would they not come here? Rek asks. Again, Sabal's staring into empty space. He tries not to see it as devoid of ships to destroy, but now he's trying to see everything that is actually around them. They're not far from the center of the galaxy, and that had to be important somehow. He has to rationally think this through and make the right decision. He's not known for being a rational thinker, but he has this time it has to be the case. The decision he makes here will possibly decide how the war turns from this moment on. And that's the end of the book.
No, it's not.
That's it. It's all done.
No.
Congratulations. You've reached the end of Volume 3. All right, one more scene here, and then I can go back to racing, and you can go back to...
No, you need to do your treadmill so that I actually get to see you today.
But I'm racking up
I'm
racking up the miles. I'm doing great.
Good for you. No, after reading, you do treadmill.
It's going really well.
To do something with you.
Maybe I can treadmill and race at the same time.
You can try.
Tanya Decker brings their ship to the same spot where the Vindicator and E-215 had last been seen, according to Dizak's instruction. They appear at that point in space and are looking at the back end of an Altilian warship that they know has Saval aboard. This is not what they had in mind. So, what do we do? Craig asks as he sits ready at the weapons controls. He's fine with opening fire and taking their chances against Sabal's beast of a ship. Craig has heard rumors about the strength of the Varia, but he believes that their ship's strong enough to take it out. This would be quite the challenge for the two newest ships in this war, neither of them having been in a battle yet, and each painted a pitch black color. The Varia is larger than the Guardian, but in terms of firepower, they're near equal according to intelligence reports. This isn't an ideal time for a battle. Too much rides on this for Tanya as she looks out at the ship. That shouldn't be there. Altilians haven't ventured this far from their home world in a long time, which tells her they must be after either the Vindicator or E-215. Either way, that meant they were dangerous. She turns to Dizak. You're the only one who knows how to make the time jump? Dizak nods. In this part of the galaxy, a wormhole is not necessary in order to achieve the jump. The gravitational forces alone can be used to achieve that jump. There just needs to be a catalyst for the jump to occur. If you're asking me if Saval knows how to do this, I would say no, or he would have gone already. So, he came here looking for someone then, likely the Vindicator, Katie says. Even though she knew the risks of this mission, it's still very difficult not to panic at the sight of a ship like the Varia. Katie had been at Mike's side when he was briefed on this ship being constructed, and on what the Altilians wanted this ship to be capable of. Good thing he doesn't look back then, isn't it? Kelsey says. Tanya sighs. He isn't looking for another ship. He has no reason to look for us. He got here and found no Vindicators, so do we fight or do we make the jump, she asks, looking again to Dizak for any advice he might have. I have no idea how this ship matches up with that one. I know that if we fight and suffer damages, we can't make the jump into the future with a crippled ship, or we're sitting ducks, he says, and then starts calculating, with a combination of sensor readings and trace signatures left behind by previous ships. I should be able to collect enough information to calculate what point in time they went to. Saval doesn't even have to know that we were here. Just say the word, Tanya, Craig says, with his hands still ready to fire on command. She looks out at the Varia, drifting in space as she imagines what kind of decisions Saval must be making. Alert Earth and Voltaires to the movements of the Varia. Have them ready for a possible attack. If he knows our newest ships aren't here, he might risk it. Just out of frustration alone, that would seem very likely, Dizak agrees. Saval badly wants his people to see him as their leader, and as a strong one too. Even though a majority of our species believe Gora is dead, Many want him to return as the prophecies make a lot of statements regarding his family's place in the world's history. Putting faith ahead of knowledge is stupid, Craig says. Hands still ready to fire. If he were less steady at the controls, his hand would have slipped and the battle would be on already. Dizak shakes his head. Faith is important. In the wake of that cowardly attack on our world, many are clinging to the belief that things will get better for us. It is only faith that keeps them alive right now, as food has become scarce. I'll admit misguided faith is likely more dangerous than anything else I know of. The prophecies have been twisted over the centuries from what they once were. They have to be restored once this evil at the head of our military has been properly dealt with. It's more complicated than just getting rid of Gore or Saval, Craig says. Make that jump any time, but right now seems like the best time, Tanya says as the Altilian ship starts to make a slow turn. With thrust control currently at their fingertips, Tanya maintains the Guardian's position behind the Varia. The odds of them being found out have gone up exponentially, and they can't afford a battle here, as Dizak pointed out. While Tanya believes their ship is more than a match for the one that Saval is flying, she can't take that risk right now. Dizak's hands work furiously as he makes the necessary calculations as he remembers them, in order to make the time jump as commanded. Sweat quickly forms on his brow while the Guardian stays behind the Varia. It's not a game of cat and mouse that will be successful for long. Dizak collects information regarding the signatures of the ships before them, calculates the background radiation in that part of space, and then looks the numbers over as he scrolls across the screen. Okay, I think I've got it, he says. He presses a button and takes a deep breath. The Varia spins and fires, but it disappears from view after the first shot rocks the Guardian. There are no further shots fired, and Dizak quickly looks at the readings. We're now approximately 200 years in the future. I don't pick up any ships in our immediate vicinity. Now, we need to get the others and find our way back while stopping Gora and Geyer from taking over the galaxy. At least that doesn't sound dangerous at all, Tanya says while slumping down in her chair. If we have arrived at the right point in time, set a course for Earth, she adds. Dizak nods as he sets the calculations for the jump to Earth. He looks over towards Craig to make sure he doesn't feel that he's being replaced by a very out-of-place Altilian. In the back of his mind, Dizak knows he'll likely die no matter what happens now. His people would burn him alive for him working with the enemy, no matter what the reason was. The space around their ship changes from the near center of the galaxy to space in orbit around the Earth, but two Altilian warships fill the screen quickly and open fire. Oh crap, Craig shouts as he starts firing back. The Guardian's rocked by impacts to its hull, though the shields hold as expected. There is little Tanya can do except watch the two warships outside fire on them, while her ship fires back. This is technology 2 centuries advanced beyond their own, so that makes her nervous. She can only hold on for dear life and have faith in Craig to do what has to be done here. Her mind is trying to process what this means. That Alto must be in control of Earth at this point, and they may have lost the war. Craig doesn't have time to think, only react. He only looks at the screen as the screen he has on his control panel. What strikes him is how much like the Guardian these ships look. He continues to fire and do his best to evade their shots. He then spots more ships joining the fray on his radar. Oh god, they have buddies. I gotta get us out of here, he says while he continues to fire on the two attacking warships. He starts to calculate a jump point with one hand while firing with the other. The ship's locked into two targets, but he doesn't have to aim at this point. Katie jumps into action. She pushes into an empty chair next to Craig, and she takes over the weapons controls. She doesn't expect him to argue, and he doesn't. She then turns off the automatic targeting and targets specific points on each Altilian ship. The first shot is a missile shot to the back of the first ship, and there's an explosion as the ship's destroyed. The shockwave from that explosion then rocks the other one as she continues to fire. There's then a wormhole in front of their ship, and they pass through even as other Altilian ships open fire. Seeing Falterius outside their view screen is a welcome relief to Tanya and her shaken crew. They exchange panicked looks with one another in silence, while Craig verifies that the exchange they had didn't compromise their ship. What the hell was that? Tanya asks. That's your future, Dizak says as he collects himself. Earth's defeated and near the point of annihilation, and that's only the slow version of the war. Falterius sits on the sidelines and tries not to get hurt along the way. There's a division among those who live on this planet, and that division will get worse, with the timeline now including Talia Laris being assassinated. What? Craig asks. The topic never came up since the arrival of Katie Translow and the others to the Guardian. Katie nods and continues where Dizak left off. When Dizak came to visit me, Talia and Charis Laris were already there. Things on Falterius have been bad. She'd come to see me for advice more than once. I felt we were on the verge of something great when Dizak came to see us, Katie says, and her voice trailed off. We're going to see a better future, Dizak says. I didn't come with you just to see all of this fail. I need to make this right. I cannot let her death or the death of the officer who was with me be in vain. And that's the end of that scene as we get pretty darn close to the big battle. It's going to completely annihilate universes. Multiple universes. So, Crisis of Infinite Earths. My version from 2011. So there you go. All right, so we're getting closer to the end. I think we're 20 pages from the end of it. We are 40 pages from the end, but there's an epilogue in here that is 4 pages long. So there's that. Because with the epilogue, I figured, well, I'm probably going to just finish it here. And then, of course, I went, I can write about this. And then I wrote about something else. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for all your support. As I've been saying, you know, if you can stay home and be safe, that's the best option. And if you can't, understandable in this day and age as well. And yeah, just I hope everybody's happy and healthy, and that 2020 starts being less like 2020 and more like every other year before it,
Right.
where there wasn't this kind of stuff going on.
Every year look good.
Even the 80s with the hair, even the 80s look good now.
And the neon.
I would love to have neon and be able to leave the house more regularly.
I should make me something neon.
I've got all kinds of jerseys that'll meet that requirement. I've got tons.
Did I get
of...
it cut up? Awesome.
Conversation's over. Thank you guys so much, though, for watching and for all your support. It means a lot. I do apologize it's been so long since the last installment of this book, but again, since it gets added to the playlist, they're all in order. Thanks again for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.